The switch to alternative drives, especially electromobility, is in full swing actually in all of Europe and all over the world. So welcome today to Hungary, a modern European country with a rich bus and coach heritage. Many people know, also in Germany. Here and today, our mobility experts will discuss the current status of the way to alternative drives in Hungarian cities. Our speakers, 4 at the number, will discuss official investment programs and political framework. In the same way, this roadshow gives insight from the producer point of view and discuss how operators are prepared for the switch. And we also have voices from the media and the science in Hungary.
Hello, good morning from Budapest, Hungary. Thank you for accepting our invitation to the second stop of the International BUS2BUS Roadshow here in Hungary. My name is Tünde Simon Lutring. I'm the representative of Messe Berlin at the German-Hungarian Chamber of Commerce. And so I'm your first contact here in Hungary for topics and trade shows related questions. The trade show portfolio for Messe Berlin is very wide, ranging from agriculture through tourism, mobility sector, trains, airplanes, buses, till consumer electronics. My main task as a representative of Messe Berlin is to inform potential customers, associations, ministries, and the press about the trade show topics here in Hungary and support them at their preparation progress for a successful trade show participation. At my main organization at the German-Hungarian Chamber of Commerce, we have over 900 members. We are the biggest bilateral chamber here in Hungary. We help Hungarian companies to find new business opportunities in Germany, and we support German companies entering the Hungarian markets. We also organize networking events, do lobbying, and advise our customers in legal questions. Hungary is a country with a long history and lots of traditions. It has a population of 10 million people. We are very proud of our famous wines, tasty, delicious mias, thermal buses, and further touristic attractions are in the country. The Lake Balaton, Hortobágy, and Bálint, for example. Hungary has a very open economy. It's a very export-oriented country. The top destination export of Hungary are Germany, the USA, Austria, and Great Britain. Approximately 1/3 of our export goes to Germany. So we can say that Germany is our most important trading partner. The top export items of Hungary are cars, vehicle parts, and packaged medicaments. Today we have a very interesting topic to discuss, focusing on the bus sector. We will talk about e-mobility and the Green Bus program. So I would like also to thank you all of panelists, media partners for accepting our invitation for this international roadshow. Last but not least, I would like to invite you to next year in April to our physical BUS2BUS trade show that will be held in Berlin. Now I would like to hand over to my colleagues to Berlin, to Ms. Willow Beck-Jewett, who is the project organizer of BUS2BUS, and she is going to tell you much more information and new information about the BUS2BUS.
Thanks, Tünde. I'd like to just take a moment to welcome all of our viewers today to our live stream event. My name is Willow Beck-Jewett, and I am a project organizer for the BUS2BUS team. I've been with the BUS2BUS team since the beginning, 2017, since it's premiered, and BUS2BUS will take place for the third time next year from the 27th to the 28th of April. So I'm just going to take the time today before we start the roundtable discussion to tell you a little bit about BUS2BUS. What does it stand for? So BUS2BUS is in itself a trade show mobility event, traditionally also a sales platform for products and innovation. But at the BUS2BUS, we strive to be more than just that. So we really try to put the focus on innovation and to help shape the image of the bus, which in comparison to other means of transport can be somewhat undervalued or underrated. Something that we aim for as well at BUS2BUS is to connect startups. So we like to have the startups who are very have their fresh and new ideas and partner them with larger companies or associations or partners that have the means to put those innovations and ideas into action. I'm just going to say a little bit more about what you can expect on the 2 days in Berlin, our on-site event. So as you can see, BUS2BUS is divided into 3 components. The first, as I mentioned, is our trade show. So that's the stands and the booth within the halls here in Berlin on the exhibition grounds. We have a startup area within the halls as well, and we have an outdoor display with many vehicles. So included in that outdoor display is also a test track, so you can test those vehicles live and in action in Berlin. The second component is our stage program, and that's also located on central halls within the trade show. We have 2 programs, 2 components of our stage program. One is the Future Forum, and the other one is the BDO Congress from our longstanding partner, the German Association of Bus and Coach Operators, who are also here in Berlin. In 2022, we will be focusing on ideas like fresh travel, alternative drives, political issues, autonomous driving and intelligent vehicles as well. So those panels from both programs, from Future Forum and BDO Congress, will be in German and English with corresponding translation for our international guests. The last component of BUS2BUS is BUS2 Specials. And this is something that's new for BUS2BUS. It's an opportunity for our exhibitors and for our trade visitors to present themselves in a way that maybe is outside of a normal trade show participation. So we have the BUS2 Explore workshops, which are also located within our trade show. These are small workshops that have small amount of participants to a topic that maybe perhaps you've seen in the Future Forum and you'd like to know a little bit more. And it offers an interactive way with our mobility experts who host the BUS2 Explore workshops to have direct feedback and to sort of deeper dive learning into that certain topic that you're interested in. We also have BUS2 Insights, which is an offer for our exhibitors to have a small panel on stage and promote their innovations. And we have something as well for our startups called BUS2 Pitch. And this is a really fun event on our stage where the startups get to compete against each other in short 3 to 5 minute pitches, and they go home with an exclusive prize. I'd like to mention that our ticket is an all-inclusive ticket. So if you visit us in Berlin next year, you will be able to visit all 3 of those components with 1 ticket. And yeah, I guess I speak for my whole team when I say that we are very, very excited to welcome everybody in Berlin next year. Not only after the 2 years that we normally have between our events, but the shift into 2022 because of the pandemic. We are more than excited to get things started in 2022 and see everybody face to face in Berlin. So if anybody has any questions for us today, please feel free to use the opportunity today underneath the live stream in the little area below to post your questions, and we will try and answer them at the end of this event. Or if you'd like to reach us by email at bus2bus@messe-berlin.de. I think I've said all I need to say today. I would happily like to pass over the digital microphone to our senior product manager, Kerstin Cooper-Erkens, who will be kicking off the live stream event with the roundtable today. Kerstin?
Thanks a lot, Willow. A warm welcome from my side too. I'm really delighted to meet our Hungarian bus mobility expert here today, and I'm sure we will have a very interesting discussion and a lot of first-hand information about the Hungarian transition to alternative drives. My part is very short today, but let me just mention and add what Willow just said. If you have any questions concerning the BUS2BUS upcoming event in April last year, please contact us, and you can even use the chat function here today, and I will be happy to answer your question. But now I would like to introduce our moderator today. I'm happy to welcome Thorsten Wagner, who is a long-standing bus enthusiast, bus industry insider, and a journalist. Thorsten studies media, English literature, and politics in Marburg and Cambridge. He worked at Motorpresse Stuttgart and the Eurotransport Media, as well in Stuttgart. He was a press officer at MAN Neoplan Bus and Coach. And he is a media relation manager, or he was a media relation manager at the Automotive Institute for Management at European Bus School, EBS. Now, today, Thorsten works as a freelancer, journalist, and a photographer, and he is still very much involved in the Eurotransport media. Thorsten, I'm really happy to have you here, and now the digital stage is yours.
Thank you very much. A warm welcome from my side also, oder guten Tag, like we say here in Hessen, in the middle of Germany, near Frankfurt, so you know where I'm sitting right now. Yeah, thank you very much to have me here. First time for me at BUS2BUS. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about one of the biggest topics that we have in the bus industry. Because to give you a short introduction, what it's all about today, in order to dramatically reduce CO2 emissions, like we all hear now every day on the television, also from Glasgow, in Europe, the mobility sector, as many other industries, have to act fast and even to catch up considerably with the political targets set by the EU or all member states. The BUS2BUS Special Edition, which took place this April 21, brought together around 900 experts from Germany and abroad online, like many things, of course, like this also. One fact was impressively underlined here. The bus industry is innovative and indispensable in the climate-friendly mobility mix of the future. Buses and coaches are or will be available in almost all sizes as electric versions, increasingly equipped with climate-friendly drives, ranging from biogas up to electric or even hydrogen drives. This makes bus transport predestined for tailored mobility concepts in cities, rural regions, and also in tourism at the end. The switch to alternative drives, especially electromobility, is in full swing actually in all of Europe and all over the world. So welcome today to Hungary, a modern European country with a rich bus and coach heritage. Many people know also in Germany. Here and today, our mobility experts will discuss the current status of the way to alternative drives in Hungarian cities. Our speakers, 4 at the number, will discuss official investment programs and political framework. In the same way, this roadshow gives insight from the producer point of view and discuss how operators are prepared for the switch. And we also have voices from the media and the science in Hungary. So let me switch to our first participant, to Veronika Erős. I will give you a short introduction. She is the leading support of the Green Bus project since 2019. This project is supposed to support all Hungarian cities that are bigger than 25,000 inhabitants to purchase from next year on only emission-free buses. For 10 years, I think your goal is to replace until the end of these 10 years, 50% of all buses, which is quite a task. She's also deputy chair of the EIT Urban Mobility since last year, the European Innovation Community to educate and inspire mobility solutions for 21st century cities. Quite a long name of this. She does this for 3 years now. And she's business creation lead of the Zone cluster project. So in short, she has 13 years of experience in the field of renewable energy utilization. Her background, she has an MA in regional and environmental economics of the University of West Hungary in Szent István. Please excuse my Hungarian is horrible today. You will notice that. And she has an BA in economic diplomacy and international management from Budapest Business School. Veronika, my first short question to you to get going a little bit. In the recent months, we all know, we have seen that many people have used and rediscovered the car in some kind as a means of COVID transportation. From your point of view, what needs to be done to reignite the trust in public transport?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for the introduction, and also thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure to represent the Hungarian Auto and Motorsport Development Agency, where I'm responsible for the professional coordination of the Green Bus program. And also thank you for your first question regarding this not easy topic, because I guess not only in Hungary, not only in Budapest, but even in Hessen, for example, you could experience that a lot of people changed public transport to their individual cars recently. Of course, first of all, to protect themselves and also each other from this virus. So what we see that the individual decisions play an important role when choosing a kind of mean of transport. But of course, the state and cities, leaders of cities and towns are also decision makers to influence the individuals. And what we see recently is that, for example, due to this Green Bus program, which is a flagship initiative of the Hungarian government, is that we have to make the people understand how they can pollute the environment. And if we can raise their awareness in this aspect that, for example, due to the cars, they pollute, and if we emphasize how much emission they can let into the air due to using their own cars and sitting one or two people in just one car, then perhaps we can affect their way of thinking. This Green Bus program, on one hand, tries to raise the awareness of the individuals, and on the other hand, if we can offer better services for the users who are using public transport, then perhaps they better use these kind of means of transports.
Great, thank you very much for this introductory words, Veronika. Let me introduce our second panelist, our voice of the production of the bus industry, Mr. Zoltán Sipos from BUS Europe Limited, who is my micro on? Yes, it is. Sorry, I heard a beep. So, who is producing and selling buses under the brand name of Ikarus, a well-known brand name in Hungary, of course. Zoltán is CEO since the middle of this year. He is economist from the point of education and carries also an MBA from the University of Pécs. I hope this was right this time. I won't say the long version of this. And before he was working several years, he has lots of experience in management in medium-sized automotive and steel industry. So let me ask you as a first starter to get going, Zoltán, in what respect can a traditional brand name like yours, I mentioned it before, Ikarus, has quite a ring in the bus world. How can this brand name help to further electromobility for the future, for the clean future of us all?
So thank you very much for this introduction words, Thorsten. Welcome to everybody. I'm happy to be here because the importance of this type of live conference it's very high recently, because we are speaking about new technology and the rapidly changing world and about the trends. Back to your question, how our well-known brand helps to transfer to the new technology. I consider Ikarus like a brand and solid, strong brand, like a good base, a fundamental thing, because we are a famous manufacturer, and you know that when we are talking about automotive industry and the public transport, you should also consider a lot of certificates, a lot of safety issues, but we have to answer like requirements. So like a bus manufacturer, you have to have some skills, abilities, and knowledge what you are doing, what you are making. And so I consider the brand like a solid base, and the new technology, this electric powertrain, for example, it's needed to have, because our common goal is to reduce the CO values and making emission-free type of buses. And after 3.5 years, so this is, let's say, the time period what we invested to change the powertrain to the electric one. After this, we are able to make this type of new environment-friendly buses in series, and without having these special abilities, I cannot imagine how to survive in the future. So the brand and also our history helps us to transfer.
Wonderful. And yesterday in our preparation, I think you mentioned even you call it new Ikarus now, don't you? So you take it in the brand, exactly. Bring it into a new era.
Exactly.
Okay, wonderful. Turning to our third panelist, a colleague of mine, actually, Gellert Patti, of the website Magyar Info. I hope that was okay, Gellert. You founded with some colleagues, I think you are three editors altogether. You founded the website 2011 as full-fledged bus enthusiasts, I guess. I checked your email, your website yesterday. It's very, very much content on it, especially much on Ikarus. Zoltán, you should check the website. You are also a vehicle engineer for a living in your real job, and the website started originally dedicated to news and the heritage of the Hungarian bus industry, but today the website provides the latest news about Hungary as well as global bus makers, and you're doing test drives, you report from exhibitions, of course, and so on. My first starter question for you, Gellert, is this one. The switch to sustainable, especially to electric drives, has gained enormous momentum in Europe. How well do you see the Hungarian bus industry positioned in this booming context?
Good morning. Thank you very much for the introduction and for the chance. It's a pleasure to be here today. Transition to electromobility is certainly a great opportunity for newcomers to enter a market which was ruled by the big, well-established players until the recent years. And it's also true for the Hungarian bus manufacturers who can be considered as newcomers at the e-bus market. Hungarian bus industry undoubtedly has a rich and successful past, but we have to admit that what we have now at the moment is only a shadow of the former glory. However, the global switch to zero-emission mobility is a chance to put the Hungarian bus industry on the international map again, at least to the level to where it was 30 years ago, if we are able to take the opportunity. So first, let's take a brief look at the current situation of bus production in Hungary. Because
short one, Gellert, please.
Okay, I try to speed up a little. So at the moment, Icarus is the only Hungarian-owned bus manufacturer which already have battery electric buses in its lineup. The first units were sold in this year, and road tests are underway not only in Hungary but also in Germany. Our market leader, Bus, has a capacity to produce around 1,000 buses per year. Despite their leading position, they don't have an electric model yet, but they are working on it, and it will be a modern ultra lightweight concept. An also notable player in Hungary is Intertraction Electrics, which works in close collaboration with Mercedes-Benz. And according to my information, they are also working on battery electric and also hydrogen fuel cell powered buses. So we can see that many state-of-the-art products are under development here in Hungary, and we will see them hit the market in the upcoming years. We can also mention BYD, which is, of course, a Chinese vehicle industry giant, but it has its biggest operating manufacturing plant here in Hungary, and it's operating since 2017. And today, BYD is actually the biggest electric bus producer here in Hungary. Please let me place shortly the Hungarian e-bus market in Europe based on the latest statistics. Our market is relatively small. In the last year, 22 new electric buses in total were commissioned here in Hungary, but we expect a significant rise in the sales, especially thanks to the Green Bus program. And in this year, more than 40 new e-buses were delivered, and we have nearly 100 in order. So this volume, this electric production volume, which is necessary to supply the Hungarian market, I think Hungarian bus manufacturers has the manufacturing capacity at the moment, and we will in the future to provide buses for our market and for abroad.
Okay, great, wonderful. So we have an overview of the market already. You can hear me, yes? Okay, I'm unmuted. Then we have the voice of the science, our fourth participant, Dr. Bálint Csonka. He is a transportation engineer and graduated at Budapest University of Technology and Economics. He started there in 2008, did his PhD with summa cum laude in electric vehicles, is leading a research group in the Faculty of Transportation Engineering and Vehicle Engineering, and is since last year research associate with his new title as with his PhD. The research area is transport informatics, passenger transport, electromobility, and charging management. So all these topics we are dealing with today. So you're just the right man, Bálint. My question for you is to get going. Setting up a system of electric buses is much more than just buying vehicles like in the past. What, in your eyes, what are the most important factors for an operator to get going in the right way? And how can you as scientists and also perhaps as a startup help in this respect?
Thank you, Thorsten. Thank you for the introduction and your kind words. It's a great honor to be the voice of science, and I also feel a slight pressure from the science community.
Don't have to.
Okay. And I would like to also welcome our participants, and thanks a lot to our organizers who made this event possible. And yeah, it's a very good question, because unlike diesel bus characteristics, there is a huge difference between the electric bus characteristics. Only the well-known, for example, battery capacity and range, passenger capacity. These are the most important attributes of an electric bus, and these factors are somehow against of each other. For example, we put a greater battery in a vehicle, which means a greater mass, and we lose passenger capacity. For example, if we put a battery that stores enough energy for a whole day, we lose about 20 and 30 passengers in the capacity. And the consumption is also important. And another aspect, that the electric bus doesn't operate by itself. It's a part of a complex system. And we need to integrate into this system. We need to identify the relation between these components. For example, the charging technology, charging power and connection time is also important. We need to consider the bus network, for example, elevation and the average distance between stops. And these are together form the complex system. And these are deterministic factors that are given and don't change over a long period of time. But we need to consider also the stochastic factors. For example, the weather. Of course, in a hot summertime, you need to cool the bus. It increases the consumption. And also the traffic volume has an impact on the service, because it may decrease the speed of the buses, and it also has an influence on the consumption. That's why we dedicated a research group to this cause at the university, which is called Bolley, because no matter it's a bus or a trolley, the solution is always Bolley. And yes, I am the leader of this group.
Okay, so Bolley is the name for the group as well as the startup you founded. Is that right?
Yes, we participate at startup events, and yes, we use this name for these events.
Good, wonderful. Thank you, Bálint.
Thank you.
So I think we have opened the scope of this interesting topic in this wonderful country in the heart of Europe. We will cluster the discussion in 4 clusters. I will just shortly give you an idea what's it about. The first, at first, we will talk about the general switch to alternative drives and the implications of that. The second cluster will be sustainable mobility in a smart city context, which is also getting more and more important nowadays. The third cluster will deal about infrastructure and digitization. Difficult word again, but in everyone's ears and mouths nowadays. And last but not least, the fourth cluster will be about awareness and new quality of sustainable bus passenger transport. So I hope we'll get through these 4 clusters. It's quite a task, actually. And let us start right away with Veronika again. So many of you talked about the Green Bus Program, which is in all mouths and ears in Hungary, actually. Veronika, what is the main driving force behind the program, and what is the scale of the investment, actually?
Thank you for the question. I think Gellert and Bálint mentioned quite useful information about the Hungarian producers in this respect, and also circumstances that have to be aware when we use electric vehicles. So first, at the end of 2019, we started a Green Bus pilot project, which is actually still ongoing, and we are going to come up with the results of this 2-year-long pilot project in the very beginning of next year. So just to really discover all the aspects of funding electric buses, the government and through that the Green Bus Project Office so that it is really needed to have a pilot project first. Parallel with this pilot project this year, we launched the Green Bus program itself, which is, as you also mentioned, a 10-year-long program. For the first part, the Hungarian government allocated 100 million euros for the program to fund. This is actually state money from the revenues of CO2 selling. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, came up the Recovery and Resilience Fund and also the Cohesion Fund, which we are also planning and programming. So by the end of the program, in a 10-year-long period, this 100 million euros will be five times more. Or perhaps even more as we pass on with the time. But why is this necessary? We see that almost 3,000 buses are in operation in Hungarian cities and towns with above 25,000 inhabitants. And most of these buses are very old, outdated, and polluting. So, as I mentioned, that for the first time we are financing the program from CO2 revenues. It is, and it was, and it is, and it will be, of course, very important to have the climate effect of the program, and that we really have to keep up with technology, and that we have to make the people live in livable and clean aired cities and towns.
And I understand it right, you not only provide money in a considerable amount, but you also have an even more strict regulation than the European Clean Vehicle Directive, for example, which gives percentages and so on. You say clearly new vehicles from next year on, I guess it was, to 2022, in those cities you mentioned above 25,000 inhabitants, these cities have to buy only emission-free vehicles. So you're stricter there as the European legislation.
Actually, yes, it is stricter, but just let me explain a little bit more about the background. We are also just adapting the Clean Vehicle Directive now from the government side. And yes, the government made the decision that from public money from funds. New vehicles can be purchased only if these are electric. So since we have to switch to a cleaner and carbon-free economy, it is very important to fund the right now more expensive technologies than those which are, so to say, affordable. And as we see that an electric bus is twice as expensive, thank you, than a diesel one, for example. We saw that we can help the local cities and the utility offering companies with funding the electric vehicles and the connecting facilities.
But you're not only funding battery buses, you're funding all emission-free technologies. Is that right? Are you technology neutral in that way?
We are only funding battery electric buses right now. Yes, and through the Hungarian hydrogen strategy has also been accepted by the government. We are now also analyzing the possibilities how and when we can support, for example, fuel cell vehicles.
Okay, Zoltán, what do you think about this approach? Are you happy with the battery focus right now? Or are you also on the way to the hydrogen path that's like many countries in Europe, at least here in Germany, we have a strong drive towards hydrogen. What is your opinion on this technology paths, the different ones?
If I want to approach to this question and to this topic, then I have to mention that there are some certain levels. As our company, like a manufacturer, is competing against others. Gellert had a great overview, market overview, how many competitions are here only in Hungary, but also worldwide we are having a strong competition. Also, it's valid for the technologies. So as the battery powertrain competes against the hydrogen fuel, from our point of view, we are quite neutral, because we have also some business interest. The technology must be proven first, because if you are selling your buses like a product, it must be very safe and reliable on the streets. It cannot be broken on every street and every corner. So that's why we have to focus now to the battery electric powertrain solutions, because it's having some experience, it's having some proofs. And please don't forget that although electrobus belonging to the Icarus group, we are having also a Chinese mother with minority share, and they are having a very strong relation with different Chinese manufacturers, and they are the world leaders in this industry. Therefore, I must highlight at the moment recently the proofs that this technology has already some proven. If hydrogen will be turned into the more reliable and available source like technology, we are not against to use it if it's more effective. And please don't forget, last but not least, I have to mention also the infrastructure, because as the bus looks like and it's featured by a battery or hydrogen fuel cells, it's needed to have the infrastructure in the background, because we are selling a complete package for our customers, not only in the bus.
Okay, I see we have the first questions coming in, but we will deal with those at the end of the session. So everyone who has a question, write it down, please. Note it behind your ears, and in our Q&A session at the end, we will talk about this. I will note it also myself that I don't forget it. So let me just ask Gellert very shortly, please, because we're running already out of time a little bit. Gellert, what do you think? What is the real effect of the Green Bus program? Is it already graspable? Can you already on the market see that the Green Bus project program is turning things around in the city bus market? You have to unmute yourself.
Yes, sorry. So, well, we are at the beginning of this road, I think, but we can already see that these economical circumstances, which was also mentioned by Veronika, will cause the slow decline of diesel-powered buses in the Hungarian city bus market. And Green Bus program, of course, is a great opportunity to both operators and e-bus manufacturers. And for the latter, they can maintain their existing product position on the market or enter a new market. For example, the pilot project, which was mentioned by Veronika, involves 9 bus manufacturers who has the possibility to have their vehicles tested in Hungarian cities. And among them, there are some manufacturers, for example, eBusco from the Netherlands, which are already not present yet here in Hungary, but they choose to take part in this program, which I think clearly shows the potential of this initiative. And of course, Green Bus program is a chance for the operators to test the vehicles and test how they can operate them, because they have not only benefits, of course, but operating electric buses has many challenges as well. Because we don't have much time, I won't speak about them. I think most of us knows about them. And in the end, despite we are at the start of the road, I think with the help of the Green Bus program, we will be able to change by the end of the decade at least half of the Hungarian cities bus fleets to environmentally friendly, locally zero-emission models, and that's very important, I think.
Great, thank you, Gellert. Let me switch to our second cluster, which is headlined Sustainable Mobility in a Smart City Context. And as you will reckon, smart rings the bell of science. So, Bálint, I would come to you now with my question. What do you think? How can we connect the bus system with smart city approaches? It's conventional telematics, what we are talking about more or less all the time, or is that just a very little piece of the whole picture?
Yes, smart cities is a concept of several levels. One of these levels is the transport, public transport especially. And as I mentioned before, there are several factors, and we can't just plan this public bus service based on our previous experiences. We need to consider differences, and that's why we elaborated a mathematical model where we combined these factors, we revealed the relationship among these factors, and defined the cost of operation, cost of electrification, and emission as a function of these factors. So the smart city is based on novel solutions, and that's why we also adapt these solutions for the electric bus system. And with these, let's say that if you don't have these kind of smart solutions, you can plan for the worst scenario and buy as a big battery capacity as you can with as much charging stations as you can. But on the other days, when you have better circumstances, you have a very big capacity, which is not necessary. So with this clever planning, we try to find the middle between the best case and the worst case, and identify a service which is flexible enough to provide the same service quality on the worst day, but it also has a reasonable capacity. And as the buses are managed on roads, the electric buses has to be managed on the electric grid. So charging is also an important aspect of smart city because of the fluctuating charging demand has an adverse effect on the power grid. Maybe there is a way to reduce this fluctuation. For example, using local power generation and local power storage solutions. And when the battery on the bus is close to its end, it doesn't mean that the battery is not good enough to storage energy. It can be placed in a stationary position and store energy at a station, for example, to also reduce the fluctuation of charging demand from the electrical grid point of view.
I would be interested, Bálint, here in Germany, we have a strong focus on depot charging since years now. And there are only very few companies that put up catenaries to have trolley buses, for example, or even have pantograph charging, opportunity charging. What's the situation in Hungary? We all know that the Eastern European states have a strong history, a very long history. You didn't get rid of your trolley buses like we did in Germany or other European countries. So is there still a stronger focus and on opportunity charging and trolley buses? And is that a part of a smart city for you?
In my point of view, yes. In Budapest, there is a tradition of the operation of trolley buses. And if we consider that the battery has the biggest price in an electric bus, and trolley buses don't have battery or only a small capacity.
And you have actually to run a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's also good for the environment because the batteries also have an adverse effect on the environment. So maybe here in Budapest, we move from the trolley buses to electric buses. We put a greater battery to increase the flexibility of the buses, because as small as the battery is, it limits the operation of the bus only under the catenary. But if we put a bigger one, bigger battery, it can operate on other lines. And considering that catenary overhead wires are only affordable at lines where there are several buses, so it's a frequent line with a great frequency. But on other lines where only 2 times buses per hour, it may be beneficial to use batteries. And in other cities, maybe they transfer from the diesel buses to electric buses, but I hope they also use trolley buses.
Okay, thank you, Bálint. And my second and last question for this cluster goes to Zoltán, because he's the industry man here. What do you think? What's the role of modern telematics and other intelligent and smart systems, and also automated driving, of course? What role are these things playing in the smart city approach, and are you already involved in such smart projects?
Yes, owing to this time limitation, I don't want to have such a broad view and talking about infrastructure and cities. Let me focus into the bus itself. We are participating in 2 very interesting projects, which ones are supported financially by EIT Mobility Fund. This is European funds. And the purpose of these projects are very interesting for the passengers. The first aim of one project, which is called anti-trash, that the bus inside it's featured by camera system, which are recognizing and monitoring the leftover packages and waste and all not needed things. So it's saying about the safety, and it's saying about the health and environment. And we are collaborating with the Finnish university to have these things together, this feature. And the second project is maybe even more interesting under this pandemic situation. Our bus will be featured by this special equipment, which is monitoring and measuring the air quality inside the bus. So we are able to have this values inside the bus, and of course the equipment is the data from this equipment will be forwarded to the operators and needed authorities. And by this equipment we want to protect our passengers, and it is also some novelties which once was not available in the past for the old type of buses. So this is our answer to the new challenges and 5G and smart buses. And of course, maybe I shouldn't mention so much the Wi-Fi connection, because all of us are having these things and needed to have the online connection, and Wi-Fi is also available inside the bus.
That's more or less normal nowadays. But as you said, this air quality measurement inside, that's more a feature of premium passenger cars, I would say. So
I agree with you.
Good thing with that, yeah, wonderful. But we have to switch to our next cluster, which is not so far away. Actually, it's about infrastructure and digitization. Let me ask Veronika here. Veronika, what is your main focus from a point of city planning and from the official politics when it comes to charging technologies? We talked about trolley buses, we talked about battery buses. One participant before the computer is asking about in-motion charging, for example. What is your scope in the Green Bus program when you think about a next step, for example? Now the focus is on battery buses, I understood, but when you will widen this focus, how will this happen then? What is in your mind and on your plans there?
As I mentioned previously, since the Hungarian government adopted the hydrogen strategy, of course, we are analyzing how and when, first of all, the infrastructure can be developed, and we are also benchmarking whether, for example, the fuel cell buses can be can be purchased or when it is a reality to ride hydrogen buses on the roads. So it is not the close future, I think. We are also planning to have a demonstration, a test for that next year, if we manage to do that. But getting back to the original question, what we are focusing on regarding the infrastructure is that we all know that there are many types of charging electric vehicles. Due to the circumstances that we have here in Hungary, how the towns and cities are prepared, we decided to focus first of all on the night charging, the depot charging. We still see a lot of challenge in this aspect when the fleets are going to be present in at least 11 sites soon in Hungary. Then it will be a really challenging situation to charge these buses during the night in the depots. But it is just for now and for the close future. We are continuously analyzing the technologies, the technology readiness, and by the time of the next call for proposal, which is now under preparation, we will see what the amount of fund we can offer will be able to let for the cities and towns. I mean, we also have to take into consideration the funds and the operations that the cities and the towns and public operators can carry out.
So quite some challenges ahead. Let me ask you, are there already hydrogen filling stations in Hungary?
No, not yet. Not yet. Only one temporary, but that is absolutely not for example, bus charging. Yeah, we are having discussions in the background how we can plan to develop.
Kick off with the topic.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, wonderful. Let me ask. Wait. When it comes to digitization and of course, many startups have their chance to get going and to think about new ways. Big firms sometimes can't go. Bálint, do I have the right impression that the switch to electromobility and the forcing of digitization, so to say, in a smart city context, is that a big chance for startups? And what is this chance? What do you think? Would you suggest for a startup in the whole situation we're talking about? How can they get going and how can they help in this situation?
Yes, I do hope that startups have a chance, and somehow we need to identify our main advantage compared to our competitors that are mainly the big companies, and we identified them in the following way. For example, nowadays when an electric bus is operated in a city, only a specific line is considered, and the charging infrastructure and anything else is determined based on the specifics of that line. But we use a holistic vision. We always consider the whole bus network, because consider lines one by one. At the end, we may get a set of local optimals, but if we consider the line, the bus network altogether, it will be a global optimal solution, and it may reduce the cost significantly. One of the other advantages of startups is diversity. For example, in our case, the backbone of our team is a research group at the university. We have 3 core members with a PhD, and our expertise cover multiple fields thanks to our PhD students as well. For example, transport sciences, energetics, economics, and vehicle technology. Mm-hmm. The other advantage of a small company may be the flexibility. Since we work at the university, our capacity can be easily expanded with high-level experts from other faculties, for example. And finally, maybe the cost is also an advantage, because establishing a specific team focusing on just the electric buses is very expensive. And that's why our motto is that we are located in Central Europe, we work with a Western European quality standard and at the Eastern European prices.
Okay, that sounds sensible and smart to me, but how can you earn money with this as a startup? That's one of the biggest problems, I guess. You have great solutions, you are connected, well connected, and you're flexible in everything. But how can you make money with this?
Well, our strategy is to save money for our customers. For example, electric bus operators. As you may know that one diesel bus can be replaced by 1.5 electric bus, and the price of electric bus is maybe 2 times more than a diesel bus. So replacing a diesel bus is with electric drivetrain is 3 times more. Yeah. So with our solution, we reduce this ratio. So one diesel bus can be replaced with 1 and 2 points electric buses. So we save millions for a city, because, for example, Budapest, there are approximately 1,000 diesel buses. And if we use our solution, we can save hundreds of electric buses. So they save a vast amount of capital investment, and a small proportion of that will be our fee. So that's our profile.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bálint. The time is running fast, and we want to give also some space for the Q&As. Cluster 4 is about, and the last cluster actually, it's about awareness and the new quality of sustainable public bus transport. And I'm doing a very smart move here now, because one of the participants already asked a perfect question for this cluster, for Zoltan actually. And before I have my question, I will take you this question, Zoltan. It is from an operator actually, and he wants to know from you, what can public transport operators do from your point of view to increase the attractiveness of using the bus? It's a tricky question because you have to have a double perspective here, but I think you can manage.
Yeah, we already recognize that it's not enough to make a simple bus. We have to be adapted to the rapidly changing world. I mean, this, smart buses, and we have to increase also the awareness of that our bus is unique, new, and novelty, and this type of messages must be handed over also to the operators and the partners, because the passengers usually they are a bit more conservative, and maybe sometimes we like people, we are afraid of the new things, because what could be happen if the bus is not so reliable, what could be happen if that's. And therefore, we have to focus into 3 major points. We have to increase the reliability of the buses, and this is the best message. If the buses all over the world and the big cities are circulating and cruising on reliable, safe way, and people, the operators, and including the passengers, they will be convinced about the new things and it's functioning. And the second is using the smart things, because these buses, they are quite new. The frame, the body itself is more or less the same, but inside, as I mentioned in the previous section, we are having some new features, and we have to make some smart advertisement, and the people will recognize how to use the buses itself, what new messages can be displayed, what lights can be used for let's say, for the passengers, satisfy the higher needs. And also, last and not least, if we are talking about the buses and new things, I would like to emphasize, highlight again the infrastructure, because the bus itself cannot be a winner if the infrastructure is missing, and also operators are having some responsibilities for that.
That is true. You mentioned the necessity of advertising also for passengers, and to make them aware of the advantages of the bus.
Yeah.
Your parent or corporation company CRRC, they presented at the last InnoTrans in Berlin. I think it was before COVID, it must have been 2019 or even 18. They presented something very interesting in a train, of course. They're also producing trains. And they had windows where you had LED adverts inside the window and you could still look through it. It's a very new technology. Would that be something which heightens the attractiveness of bus driving? That you can have situation-based and locally based advertisements in the bus, for example?
It's not planned yet. We are aware of this type of available technologies from China. The current models, what we are having, it's not having this feature. We are negotiating about transaction or this type of transferring this new technology, but in the coming years, I mean 2021 and 2022, you can't meet immediately with this type of technology, but we are very open to adopt this type of new technology if it's reasonable.
I think so, and I had the opportunity to have a short ride on the Blue Lane in Munich on the IAA with one of the city pioneer, and had a very good impression. It was a very quiet experience. Not every city electric bus is really quiet. Yours was actually. Congratulations on that. And you also have a test in Germany, in Thüringen, I guess, for several weeks in the city of Meiningen. Is that right? You have a first go in Germany with a test?
Yeah, one bus is, let's say, almost constantly is located in Germany and tested by the local operators. This is a long-term test, 6 months. And from Hanover to Bremen and to other German cities, the local passengers can use it. And we are very proud of the results of these tests, because as you mentioned, and thank you very much for your kind feedback, that we are collecting the feedbacks, what we have to improve, because there are some rooms of course, for further improvements, but of course, what we are having like a strong advantage of this new technology and the bus features.
Okay, great. Last question for this fourth cluster goes to Gellert. Let me see. It's here. Gellert, what can the digital media do to make buses cool again? Digital media like yours, for example. Do we need a complete rethinking of mobility, or is it just the right little nudges we have to give the people out there? And what are the challenges after COVID in this respect? What do you think? You have to unmute first. We don't hear your enthusiastic comment.
Now?
Yes, now.
So it's a very complex issue.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge in the future for public transportation and buses will be the compassion with individual mobility, for example, car sharing. So buses have to offer constantly improving high-level service and should have some feature that will make people to choose buses instead of cars, for example. An example can be the possibility to use their mobile devices aboard a bus, which they can't do when driving a car, or at least legally can't do, and see videos and something like that. Of course, for this, we have to provide a charging solution. So this is the reason why almost all of the newly delivered buses are equipped with USB sockets in their passenger compartment. It's also necessary to have a fresh, modern look to get attention, because I think despite buses are a commercial vehicle, they have to be attractive. But I also heard that we should increase the number of passenger seats aboard buses, because standing will be not competitive in the future. It's not a cool thing. And digital media can help by promoting these developments and also promoting the electromobility to the users, showing them that they can be part of the game, part of the transition towards a sustainable and zero-emission future, even if they can't afford to own an electric car. We can emphasize the traveling by bus has less specific energy consumption, I mean per passenger kilometers, compared to a car, even if we are talking about a zero-emission car. It's up to the digital media to show this information towards the users. But also it can be a good idea to promoting bus transportation on platforms which are popular nowadays. I mean, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. And even I think it's not a bad idea to even involve influencers who are also quite popular nowadays. Let's talk a little about the COVID situation. Sorry?
Shortly, please.
Shortly. So the biggest task is to build up trust again in public transport. Manufacturers, operators, us, the digital media, and also passengers have tasks in it. From manufacturer side, they equipped their vehicles with many antiviral equipment, filters, I mean air filters, separators, and so on. Operators can convince people that they are doing their job. They are disinfecting the vehicles maybe after every round. So trust in them. Public transportation is safe. And we as digital media has also have a role in this, because we are the one who can tell this actually to people. But the most important task, I think, still belongs to the passengers, because they have to keep the rules, wear the mask, wash their hands, and do everything what they can to avoid being infected.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Gellert, for this tour de force of making buses cool again. So we all hope that this will work out quite soon. Next year, the latest. Perhaps we have a not so nice winter before us, but we hope all the best. Let's come to the Q&A session. As we have the first question very elegantly answered by Zoltan already. Let's see what else there is in stock. Let me see. There was something about city planning of an architect. Perhaps I would address this question to Veronika. An architect wants to know if the Green Bus program is connected somehow to the general development of sustainable modern urban spaces. I guess in cities, he means, or perhaps even on rural places. So would you have an idea to answer this question, Veronika?
Yes, I can answer that. Thank you. So strictly speaking, we are not connected, and we are not dealing with urban planning. But as we already mentioned, we cannot pass by the question of infrastructure, the question of the grid. So for sure, we have to deal with it soon. We have to work together with the urban planners. For example, if a local government, a municipality turns to us to ask such questions and help, then we are happy to help and do our best to help reorganize the public transport and the routes where former buses ride, and help them how and where the new bus lanes and the routes should be settled. So urban planning has been increasingly important in this aspect, and we think that from the funding point of view and in this whole holistic attitude, we have to adapt also ourselves from the programming side and help in the adaptation and mitigation of the municipalities.
Okay, so you think it's necessary to have also planning involved, and you're thinking about it for the future.
Yes, that's right. We have to focus really on energy efficiency and energy management and the grid, as I mentioned as well, which is in close connection with the urban planning as well.
Great. Thank you, Veronika. I have some questions I would like to cluster together for Zoltan. He has also provided answers even for one of those. One participant in the audience wanted to know how about exporting to the United Kingdom, because the electric city bus market in the United Kingdom would be dominated mainly by Chinese companies, and Zoltan's answer was that you're planning to sell also in the UK, but it takes a little bit time. Do you want to elaborate on that, Zoltan?
Very few words, like a supplement to this quick answer. Then to sell electric bus is not enough to have the capabilities, manufacturing capabilities. You need to have a partners, because this new technology needs the service as well. So therefore, it takes some time to penetrate into some new markets. And we want to be there in UK for sure. This is also part of our strategy. But to find the local distributor, including the service, it takes time.
Yeah, that's tricky, and I think in Germany you found one. It's TWASCO.
Yeah, TWASCO. We are highly satisfied with them because it's a great company, and they are let's say cooperating with us a very smooth and easy way. So I would like to have the same type of partner also in UK. BYD and the Chinese, they started earlier the business, and therefore they have some years ahead and some partners. We have to speeding up these things, but we want to be there.
So you're open for proposals, yes. Definitely. Now, here's a tough one. Someone wants to know from you, Zoltan, what role will the bus play in the mobility transition in Hungary? How will the use of buses in cities and in the surrounding areas change? Larger or smaller buses, or even new vehicle models? What is Icarus's corporate strategy? For the time being, you're offering your City Pioneer in 12 meters.
Yeah, the solo bus, which is available, but in the background we are developing the articulated one, this 18 meters, which it's having a bigger space, and it carries more passengers at the same time.
Many cities still have a strong need for articulated buses.
Exactly, and as we recognize things, then some public tenders are having, let's say, this minimum requirement. The participants must offer the complete pack, including the articulated one. So that will be available next fiscal year by the end of 2022. And this is the pillar of our strategy. We are committed to the zero emission. Sorry?
What about smaller vehicles, 10 meters?
Smaller. Economically is not reasonable, because when we are investing into this new technology, this smaller bus is 8 meter or 9 meter. For us, from manufacturing point of view, it's not reasonable. If we are detecting higher demand, of course, we can change our mind. At the moment, we are focusing into the 12-meter solo urban buses, and also, as I mentioned, the 18-meter, even longer articulated one.
Okay, so you would leave the market for small smart and perhaps autonomous people movers, these small little things for 7, 8, 9 people, that's a different market that you're not active on. That's for the Nafyas and so on of this world. You leave that.
I wouldn't promise, let's say, MTRs, and we have to focus into some things. And as I mentioned, the range of the available buses will concentrate on different type of buses.
Okay, and the last question for you, perhaps probably a short one. Will you also offer in-motion charging, or are you thinking about in-motion charging, given the strong focus of trolley buses in Hungary? That's not so far-fetched then, this idea.
It's subject of further consideration. At the moment, we have some line of product development. This last one, which was questioned by you, it's still the consideration. It's not decided yet whether we are going to have it or not. I can say shortly this.
Okay, great. We have a question for the science, Bálint. Let me see if I can get it right here. Can the panel, Bálint, you are the panel now, outline an acceptable diesel comparable solo e-bus spec concerning daily range on single charge, 80% reserve, approximately 300 kilometers, that's a big word, annual operation days, more than 360. Now that's quite a lot actually for one year, and per passenger capacity over 80 passengers in the vehicle. That's too scientific for me. Can you make head or tail of this question, Bálint?
Yes, I have, and
I thought so.
I would say that acceptable bus for which purpose? Because there is a huge difference between buses, and they are not better or worse than the other, but they are good for a different purpose. So, for example, in the downtown area, where overhead catenary is already available, I wouldn't use a bus with such a big battery capacity because it's an unnecessary capacity that is stored in the bus. So I would use a smaller battery with a catenary overhead system. Let's move a little bit out from the city. In those areas where at terminals there is enough space for daytime chargers and enough electricity capacity for high power charging, I would use buses with a significantly lower battery capacity, let's say approximately 100 kilometers, which is not enough for the whole day. It needs to be recharged over the day, but the extra capacity, let's consider only one turn, the extra capacity in the bus is enough to serve the energy demand of the bus in each circumstances, in a cold weather, in the hot weather. So let's do that one. And when we move even outer from the city, where there aren't too many buses on the line and there aren't too many bus lines at the terminal, I wouldn't put a daytime charger because it can only serve only a few bus lines. And there, the high battery capacity with depot charging overnight may be a good solution. So I would identify the operation characteristics, and for each characteristic category, we can identify acceptable acceptable electric bus type.
Okay, it sounds like rocket science what the participant is asking here, but it's not actually. You just look into it in the right way, okay?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Good, okay, wonderful. Here's another one. I think it's one of our last questions because we're finishing at 11:30 roughly. It could be one for you again, Bálint, but also for Veronika. I will read the question and perhaps the one who is feeling prone to it might answer. Public transport, it's a question from a PT company. So public transport companies bear a large part for the implementation of climate targets. How innovative does the bus market have to be when it comes to climate change in Hungary? what financial models for refinancing new mobility offers and innovations already exist among public transport companies. Would that be a question for you, Veronika? Or is it the science again? So it's about financial models for refinancing new mobility offers and innovations.
I will pass the word to Veronika first.
Okay.
Thank you. I think the remaining 2 minutes are not enough to discuss this topic in depth, but we are working on different financial models. And I didn't mention that right now we are not offering 100% non-refundability during our funding schemes, since we would like to see how the public transport operators are operating the new electric buses, and from different cost types that they the most probably doesn't have to cope with, I mean, due to the electricity, then we try to move them, to push them towards a different operating model, which needs different funding schemes like before. But I'm happy to continue this issue with the person who asked it in bilaterally, so you can also connect us if you feel like.
I think the colleagues in the background, in the working machine behind this wonderful discussion we're having, they will do this connection. I'm sure about that. So let's come to a close, actually, with one very last question, which has a recent and an actual background. Someone wants to know if anyone of your companies, so any of you attendants here, is attending COP26 on the Transport Day next week in Glasgow. Anyone present? Zoltan?
Unfortunately not.
Unfortunately, there are enough buses around in Glasgow. I've read here and there, I've read press releases about companies that are displaying their vehicles, which is a good window of presentation, of course. I see the last thing, Zoltan, you also you elaborated a little bit on the Icarus strategy, given the big Bedeutung, yeah, your position on the Hungarian market. I would quote it as a last word, so to say, before I hand over to Kerstin and Tunde again to close this session. So you elaborated on your strategy, which is based on making only emission-free buses. Very good thing. At this time, we're focusing into electric powertrain versions. Maybe in the future, we'll use other types of technology, hydrogen, for example. And we already talked about your 12-meter low-floor solo urban bus that you have also in 18-meter. Okay, so that's basically what you already said to us.
Yeah.
And let me see, there is one last question popping up. Which one is this? I can't see it actually. I can't see the last question, Melanie, sorry, it doesn't pop up here. So I would say thank you to all the participants. It was very interesting. We had a good overview over the Hungarian market and its way to the future, the transition to electromobility and to smart cities also. Thank you very much, Veronika, and the gentleman also. Thank you very much, Mr. Science, Mr. Media, Mr. Industry. To make it short, I will hand over to Kerstin, I think, again, to close the session. And thank you very much again.
Thank you very much from our side. We really appreciate for you this professional, let's say, interviews and approach, and also thank you very much for the organizer this great opportunity to participate here from our side.
Thank you, Thorsten. It was really interesting.
Welcome. Yes,
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Many thanks from my side too, and this was a really interesting discussion, and I'm really happy to got those first-hand information about the Hungarian transition to electromobility. But our host today is our colleague in Hungary, Tünde, so I would really love to leave the last words for you.
Yes, thank you, Kerstin. I hope you could grab some more information today that could shape your future plans. I would like now to invite you to our next BUS2BUS Roadshow to the Netherlands on 11th of November. My colleagues are waiting for you there. And thank you for being there, and have a nice day. And we have now for you a short image film about the BUS2BUS trade show. So bye-bye.